Hey guys, I'm going to be talking about my favorite books today. I am a big reader and I read mostly fiction. What I'll do is I'm always reading a book. I'm always reading two books, usually. I have a fiction book and a nonfiction book. The fiction book I can get through like, if I'm reading, I can get through like three a month. If I'm not really reading, I can do like one a month. The nonfiction book will take me like 6 months to read or something. I would say I'm a picky reader for sure. I have pretty strict criteria when I pick a book. So this is my criteria. These are the three things I look for when I'm picking out a book. First, I open it up and I see how the opening sentence flows into the opening paragraph. Um, in my opinion, your opening paragraph, and I mean your opening sentence is one just as a writer, as a reader, it's your opening sentence is so crucial. You have to hook your reader. Um, some people will read it if they're not hooked, but a lot of people need to be hooked. So yeah, I mean, I need to be hooked immediately. I need there to be something that grabs my attention, and I need that first paragraph to flow into the opening paragraph. I don't want the first sentence to be a hook that's like a false hook, and then the rest of the paragraph is garbage and you're like, wait, that person just said that for shock value. I don't like that. So I need it to be a strong opening sentence. My second thing is I read slash heavily skim the first 10 pages, and besides the opening line, which needs to be good, for me to do this, there needs to be at least one really really good line that I'm like, wow, that like hooks me. And in a good book that I end up liking, I'll typically find that within those 10 pages, I'll find at least three, honestly, really good sentences. Typically, that's how I know it's a good book. So, yeah, I have pretty high standards for books, pretty specific criteria, and I will abandon a book if I'm not truly hooked within the first five chapters. I don't believe in like forcing myself to read books. There's a difference between forcing yourself to read a book and pushing yourself to read a book that you like. Not reading because you hate your book sucks. I've been in those ruts. And so I'll just, return the book, donate it, you know, put it in a closet and forget about it. So a lot of these books actually go back and forth between the past and the present. And that's a structure that I really like when it's done correctly, which I think it is done correctly in these books. But I don't like when that plot device is done incorrectly, then it kind of ruins it. Hi, this is Monkey. This is really random, but an example of this being done like super wrong is 13 Reasons Why, the TV show. The book was so good. I read it in like middle school or whatever. I loved 13 Reasons Why, the book. I was so stoked for them to make it a movie, a TV show, and then the TV show was so bad. So yeah, so like in that show, when it's done wrong, it makes the story like so confusing. Like there's literally in 13 Reasons Why, there's this episode, this video is gonna have so many tangents. In 13 Reasons Why, there literally has to be a plot device of like Clay, is that his name, getting hurt. So he has an eye patch, so he's in like the past or whatever the fuck. Like that shit was so confusing. This is going to be the top 10 in ascending order, so it's like what I like most will be at the end. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid is number 10. It's historical fiction of Malibu in the early 80s. And the family dynamics are just amazing, and like the parallels. So there's flashbacks to the parents starting in like the 50s, and then it goes to the 80s. It's about how like the parents met and stuff. So yeah, the flashbacks start in the 50s with the parents, and then they end, well, not end, but then the present is the 80s. The characters in this book are so good. Again, I'm talking about 10 books, so I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty of every single one. I can't get into everything. And I could make like a whole video about each of these books. The perspective shifts in this book give you a true sense of time and place. You feel like you were in Malibu, like with these characters. You feel like you're surfing. It's about like a family, like the dad was like a professional surfer, and then the daughter becomes a professional surfer. And then the other son is a really good, I think her brother is a professional surfer, and then her other brother is a surf photographer. So like their family obviously has like, it's very. Number 9, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Obviously a big TJR fan. It goes back and forth between the past and the present, and the family dynamics. So I think that's something Taylor Jenkins Reid really has perfected, is family dynamics and writing about them and what they really feel like behind closed doors and what those conversations really look like. It's definitely a page turner. It felt like I don't often read books and I'm like and think it's a page turner. It has to be really good. Like I always base it on I read The Hunger Games in 8th grade in like 3 days, and that's probably the hard. Harry Potter is a page turner too, but Harry Potter was longer. Like Hunger Games, the books are so quick. So yeah, when a book's a page turner, it gives me like that thrill again, and I love that. Also, it has LGBTQIA plus relationships in the late 20th century. Everything is very much like they were roommates vibes. Like homophobia is rampant. I like that this Marilyn Monroe type of person, who Evelyn Hugo is. So my eighth top book is Pot Princess by Rachel Kahn. This is one of my favorite books from high school, and it's actually the only book on this list that I read in high school. It's extremely human. It does the same thing Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know if you can notice the theme. I really like super realistic, real characters. I want them to be how real people act. This story is just about a girl who becomes a pop star, basically. It's this girl named Wonder, and her older sister's name is Lucky, and her older sister is about to become like a pop star, and then she like dies from a drunk driving accident, and then she so then Wonder is like depressed, obviously, like her parents marriage is like falling apart, her brother is like a delinquent, like all this shit. And her brother is actually so cute. I had a crush on her brother, Charles. Charles. Anyway, and Wonder is like depressed and like whatever, and she's working at a Dairy Queen and literally runs into like the guy that used to like that was gonna represent Lucky, her older sister, and then she basically gets thrown into like stardom. And it's just this really like that kind of that's I love books about fame and like um you know money and stuff like that. I think it's really like fiction books about that kind of stuff. I think it's cool about like fame and fortune, but I like it when it's done right. And it's bad if it's done like superficially, in my opinion. It's just a really good book. I think it's a coming of age book for sure. I have reread it in my adulthood and I loved it as an adult. Yeah, I mean, it was like it's also it's like a PG-13 view of like partying and like being famous and like sex and stuff, but it's not watered down, if that makes sense. So it's still like drugs, sex, drinking, all these things are very visible. Like the girl is seeing all this stuff, Wonder seeing all this stuff and doing all this stuff, but it's never like sensationalized or like she's kind of more of an observer. Number 7 is The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher might be my favorite author ever. She is so funny, and I can't even explain how she structures her stories. One thing I noticed is that her writing style is very rambly, but in a way where you want to keep listening, like very similar to a YouTuber, my favorite YouTuber, Jenny Nicholson. Um, so yeah, I really like her writing style. She's hilarious. I have cried laughing at her interviews and stuff. Like true an American icon. Like I love her so much. It literally includes her literal diaries from when she was filming Star Wars and had an affair with Harrison Ford. Like her literal diaries. Her literal like written like her fucking shit from scratch. It's unreal. Um, and she will literally have you laughing out loud, like you will literally be screaming and then sobbing in the next minute. Like I just when it comes to celebrity writers, I'm not. I'd celebrities in general. I'm pretty picky. Her and Holly Madison nail it. Their view of fame and like the world around it is just so rich with like story, and I just love it. Yeah, the picture that Fisher paints of 1970s Hollywood is awesome. It's so like cool. It's so awesome. Honestly, you feel like you're there. All right, next one. Next up, number 6. When No One Is Watching by Alyssa E. Cole. This is definitely a thriller. I didn't really know how intense it would get. I think I read the back and saw that it was about like a 20-something-year-old girl in like New York, and I was like, okay, sold. The main character is really likable and relatable. And you really feel like you're let into her little like New York City world. So yeah, as I was reading it, I realized that it's a psychological thriller about systemic racism, which is awesome. Not racism, the that it's a book about racism. And it's such a physical example of how systemic racism affects communities and those individual members of communities. It's it's awesome. It's such a good book. It really makes you look at as a if you're not a non if you're not black and you're reading it, it really makes you feel like um you're just let into like how racism feels. So not that black people like, oh, that's that. It's a really, really good book about racism. I highly recommend it. So number five, such a such a genre shift, is The Pumpkin Queen by Shay Urshaw. It's really fun. It's a Nightmare Before Christmas fan fiction, and it's like from Sally's perspective, and it's which I love. I love Sally, and it's just a sweet book. It's like there's different. You get to go to Valentine's Day season, which is really fun. It's basically the night before Christmas, but instead of going into Christmas or Halloween trees first, you go to the Valentine's Day one. So yeah, the imagery is just so cute and colorful. It just is such a cute book. Like I can't recommend it enough. All right, number four, Lucky by Marissa Staple. This is a thriller for sure, for sure. You're never confused about what's going on. They do that plot thing where they go back and forth with the time and to different perspectives, but like you're never confused and you always know what's going on and who everyone is and stuff. Like there's like aliases and stuff like that, and it's just a really cool book. Yeah, I just it's just a good just a page turner. Like I really like the main character. It has a nice ending, honestly. Yeah, I literally can't say anything else about it. It's just such a good book. I don't want to spoil anything because it's so good. Number three and two are the Harley Quinn series by Rachel Allen, The Reckoning and Ravenous. I love these books. Wait, I have them. Let me go get it. Okay, so these are like Harley Quinn fan fiction. They're so good. It's licensed though. Yeah, it's DC. It's like Warner Brothers. Yeah, they're so good. Literally the Lisa Maxwell of another book called The Last Magician. Manically plotted and diabolically feminist. Like, yes. It's so good. So many reasons. I love Harley Quinn, and I love this series for so many reasons. Her logic in the series is Harley. It's what would Harley do 101. You know how when you watch Suicide Squad and you're like, Margot Robbie was made for this character. She knows the ins and outs. This is like Margot Robbie's. This is Harley Quinn. Harley, such a fucking solid character. Obviously, my favorite comic character ever. Oh my god, I'm always so scared she's gonna throw up. So this story aligns with who Harley has been for the last 3 decades since her debut in Batman the Animated Series. So my favorite iteration of Harley is Margot Robbie, because that was the first time I saw her, and yeah, she steals every scene she's in, Margot does, in Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey. I prefer Birds of Prey, I was gonna say obviously, because she's the main character and it's like made by women, obviously. Suicide Squad is like made by men, obviously. I think one of the main reasons I love her so much is the bisexual representation is so good. So good. Like maybe the best bisexual representation I've ever seen. Bisexual representation, and when I'm commenting on this, I'm not saying that this is any worse or better than, lesbian representation, gay representation. I'm not trying to like pit. This is not the who has it worse Olympics. I'm just saying, like, in my lane in bisexuality, it is such a joke. It's so many shows, so many books, so many movies have bisexual characters that are just framed as cheating or being like a bad gay person, a bad lesbian, and it's like as if bisexuality or pansexuality doesn't exist, and it makes no sense. One example, this makes me so bad. Shameless is one of my favorite shows ever, but in this show, Ian, and he dates this guy Caleb. Ian is gay, and he assumes Caleb is gay until Ian finds out that Caleb is sleeping with a woman and saying that it's not cheating because she's a girl. This is framed as being true, and they continue to date. That's not the surprising part. It's Ian. Yeah.
I saw you with her last night.
You're spying on me?
Yeah, because I knew you'd been cheating on me.
I wasn't cheating.
So you didn't fuck Denise then?
Cheating would be if I suck some guy's cock, all right?
So you didn't sleep with her?
I didn't say that.
Oh, I'm confused.
How do you think I feel? You're the one calling me a cheater.
You still haven't answered the question. Did you or did you not fuck Denise?
What's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
She's an old friend.
Who you fuck?
We've been sleeping together since we were kids. Don't make this into something more than it is.
You're taking your dick, you're putting it into a vagina.
And you're telling me you've never done that before.
No, I haven't. I'm gay.
So am I. Sticking my dick in a friend's vagina doesn't make me not gay.
You hearing this, Raoul?
This is why I didn't want to tell you. Because I didn't want you freaking out the way you are right now.
Oh, Geez, sorry. Hey, how should I react when he say you've been screwing a woman?
I don't know. Maybe by being more accepting of your partner's normal sexually fluid experiences. Maybe by sharing some of your own.
I don't have anything to share. I'm gay. All right? 100% gay.
No one's 100% anything.
Yeah, well, I am.
So yeah, Harley's bisexuality is so refreshing and real and raw. I don't want to give any spoilers for these books because they're just chef's kiss. Birds of Prey hints at her being bi with the opening sequence. There's literally a scene, and I think it's the 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 cheapest shot at her being bi. I don't know why she couldn't have like gotten with the girl. I don't know. Anyway,
My PhD. Had my heart broken once or twice. Finding love, it's not easy.
in this series, bisexuality is taken seriously. The other book is Ravenous. This is the second one. I prefer this cover because I prefer pigtails, and this is more of like a braid situation. And she's wearing a skirt. Yeah, I definitely prefer this. This is like what I would wear. Um, yeah, I love these books so much. Harley dates, fantasizes, and hooks up with men and women. Um, and best of all, cheating is framed as bad. Cheating is bad. It doesn't matter what her urges are. I'm not gonna. There's no spoilers, but cheating is framed as bad, no matter who it's with. I love these books so much. We get the ever-present LGBTQIA plus quandary of confusing friendships. So the confusing friendship thing is there. While confusing boy-girl friendship storylines are feasible and pretty common in straight media, it's usually just way less interesting to find out that a boy and a girl like each other. The story has to be really compelling for me to give a shit about a boy and a girl liking each other, honestly. I like a good story with a relationship on the side, like that Hunger Games versus Twilight debate, how Hunger Games is like a storyline outside of the love triangle, and then Twilight is about the love triangle. One is not better than the other. You're not better than other girls because you prefer things that are not romantic, like centrally, like straight romantic centrally. So a Harley Quinn story with a well-rounded romance plot featuring men and women is basically my dream book. The third one is actually coming out. Check these books out. Highly, highly recommend if you like Harley Quinn. I found them on like such a whim. They're in usually with they're like YA books or whatever. Yeah, so cool. Now, my top favorite book of all time is The Girls by Emma Cline. I love this book. This is my favorite book ever. I think the first time I read it was 2021. So it's been like 3 years now. This has been my number one favorite book. It's such a compelling story. The hook is that it's a fictionalized version of the Manson murders from the perspective of a 14-year-old Evie Boyd in the summer of 1969. So, summer of 1969 is known as like the year America like lost its innocence, the death of Sharon Tate by the Manson murderers.
As the writer Joan Didion noted in her famed essay The White Album, many people felt like the 60s ended abruptly on August 9, 1969, ended at the exact moment when word of the murders on Cielo Drive traveled like brush fire through the community. It was the end of the party, a bracing rejoinder to the aura of free love, innocence, and endless possibility that had defined the decade.
I love the framing narrative. Evie basically gets sucked in to the Manson's cult lifestyle, and she's reflecting on it as an adult. So the story you're here, so it goes back and forth between her in the present and then her as a young girl in the 60s. Your perspective of Evie is a little bit more elevated. It's not a 14-year-old girl's perspective. It's a grown woman's perspective. So I think that elevates the book. Yeah, I mean, it creates this really well-rounded story with moments of naivete. I don't know how to say the word naivety, mixed with adult opinions of her teenage self. Fuck you, J.K. Rowling.